And that giant cacophony tells you you're back with the Power of Three podcast. I'm Kenny Smith. And of course the theme version in the background tells you we're going to be talking about an 11th Doctor novel. But which one? Well, if you haven't looked at the show notes, then you might be pleasantly surprised to learn that we're talking about Night of the Humans, which was the 38th novel in the BBC new series Adventures range. It was written by David Llewelyn and featured the 11th Doctor and Amy Pond, and it was released on the 22nd of April 2010 with a cover by Lee Binding. And of course, it was later released as an audiobook that came in November 2010, and that was completed unabridged from BBC Audio, where it was read by Rory Pond himself, or Rory Williams if you prefer, Mr. Arthur Darvill. And of course, if you are one of those people who bought the Doctor Who Brilliant book in 2012, this was actually offered as a free download. There we go. I don't know if it's still valid or not. I really should check and have a look at my Brilliant book. I suspect it probably isn't. But hey, let's take a look at the book cover. So the top half, we've got Matt as the Doctor, one of his early photo shoots, holding the Sonic in his right hand and pointing it straight at the reader, with a bit of a green glow coming out of it. And in the background there's Amy over his shoulder, looking slightly curious and zippity. What on earth is going on? But looking as glamorous as ever. Underneath the Doctor Who logo, it's the DW version with the TARDIS shape in the middle. It tells us it's Night of the Humans by David Llewelyn, and the text says the clock is ticking, the humans, with a capital H, are coming. And we can see what appears to be a junk planet with bits of rock castles and the like, very sci-fi and futuristic, against a sort of spacey background with green lights and stars. And flying away, or is it towards the junk planet, is a very 1950s looking space rocket, complete with a red nose cone and tail fins. Let's turn the book over and it tells us this is the Gyre, the most hostile environment in the galaxy. 250,000 years worth of junk floating in deep space, home to the shipwrecked Satoon, the carnivorous Sologs, and worst of all, the humans. The Doctor and Amy arrive in this terrifying world in the middle of an all-out frontier war between the Satoon and humans, and the countdown has already started. There's a comet in the sky, and it's on a collision course with the Gyre. When the Doctor is kidnapped, it's up to Amy and galaxy-famous swashbuckler Dirk Slipstream to save the day. But who is Slipstream exactly? And what is he really doing here? Then tells us under the Doctor DW Who logo again, a thrilling all-new adventure featuring the Doctor and Amy, as played by Matt Smith and Karen Gillan in the spectacular hit series from BBC Television. And the price is UK $6.99, US $11.99. And of course, portraits copyright BBC, Doctor Who and TARDIS are trademarks of the BBC. Cover design, Lee Binding at tlady.co.uk. Of course, this was one of the first 11th Doctor novels published. And this came out alongside Apollo 23 by Justin Richards and The Forgotten Army by Brian Minchin, who of course would later go on to produce the show, not just being a script editor on it. So there we go, that's us set the scene. And now, why don't we pause before we speak to the author and hear an extract from the book, which of course is from the official BBC audiobooks release, and this is read by Arthur Darvill. And Arthur is one of the most lovely people you could ever hope to meet. I was lucky enough to interview him for Vortex when we were talking about the Rory spin-off series, and it was very, very good. Anyway, enough about him for now. Let's hear that extract.
Night of the Humans by David Llewelyn. Read by Arthur Darvill. IEA Beagle 21/Object 556C Internal Inquiry. Item 8B. Captain's Journal. (incomplete/corrupted). The following is property of the Intergalactic Environmental Agency (IEA) and may be read by authorized personnel only. Vessel. IEA Beagle 21 Situn Operations K-Class. Last known location, Botany 045, Object 556/C, designated The Gaia. Communications Officer, Captain Jamal Al-Jaheda. Report number 178. Date 26/11/338 ED. At 0618 hours, the Beagle made an emergency crash landing onto Object 556/C. We sustained severe damage to all controls, engines and navigational equipment. All raft ships have been damaged. All 11 crew members survived the impact and are uninjured. The cargo is intact and operational. Our initial investigations suggest that text missing, previous reports incorrect, and text missing, the Gaia is inhabited. We are not alone here. Report number 201, date 24/12/338 ED. Text missing. Negotiations have failed. Flight Officer Hussein, Dr. Kamal, and Lieutenant Siddiqui have been captured and killed. Text missing. Unable to repair any of the raft ships. And the clock is counting down towards day 0. Text missing. Emergency beacon has not functioned since our second week here. There seems little hope of rescue. Report number 289, date 06/03/339 ED. Our 100th day on the Gaia has passed without incident. Text missing. Aisha is recovering slowly and Dr. Heaver remains concerned by the possibility of infection. Text missing. Morale still low after the attack near the canyon little over a week ago. Lieutenants Aziz, Sharma, and Saeed are still missing, presumed dead. There is a permanent camp near the Copper Valleys in the north. Text missing. We can see their fires and hear their music, a tribal drumming that mirrors their barbarity. Text missing. Both Heaver and Basim think we should leave the ship and travel west towards the Gaia's edge, but I disagree. Text missing, and our mission is of utmost importance. Text missing. Just 8 days left. Text missing. The humans are coming.
Thank you so much for that, Arthur. Now, you can still get this available as a download as part of the 11th Doctor novels, Volume 1 from BBC Audio. This contains Apollo 23, Night of the Humans, and The Forgotten Army. So it's still available, and it's available from a variety of places. You might be able to find it at a really good price if you shop around. But yeah, definitely worth picking up because they're 3 fantastic stories. You've even got Olivia Colman, Oscar winner Olivia Colman, reading one of them. So if that's not a tease, then what isn't? Oh, A Nuclear Time by Ollie Smith is in this collection as well. So one of the second wave books makes it in with the first. So there we go. There is a little teaser and all recommended. So I'm going to stop chatting now and we're going to hear now from the author. Please welcome back to the Power of 3. It's David Llewelyn.
So I'm David Llewelyn, the author of Night of the Humans.
There we go. I have my copy here. So we go. So I just poked Karen Gillan in the face there when I did that. So I hope she'll forgive me. Scottish Club. We should be good. We should be good. So how did this one all come about, David? Because of course you'd already had previous form with BBC Books, and obviously you'd had Taking of Chelsea.
It was off the back of that when the new Doctor wanted to do a series of books. So luckily, us writers got to go to the BBC to watch the first episode, watch the 11th hour, and saw a preview of it without any effect shots in it.
Wow.
They still don't have the CGI effect shots in it.
That must have been really exciting for you, getting to see something.
It was. I think me, Ollie Smith, and Nuala McCormack went up to the BBC in Llandaff, and still up in Llandaff before they watched it.
Wow. I mean, that means the whole experience of sort of going in, signing the NDA, and just getting that whole...
Yeah. It's really exciting to give scripts as well. Some of the episodes coming up. So I don't know the other series pan out.
Yeah, I mean, that must have really helped you to get that feel for this new Doctor and companion, because obviously we'd all become so used to David Tennant.
What I was really looking forward to Victory of the Daleks.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We all look forward to those first Dalek stories and how each Doctor gets on with them. So what was your starting point for this one? Was it pretty much an open brief from Justin?
It was pretty much. I think I already had you said a space story. I already had the title in mind. It just kind of spread from there then. I think it seemed somewhere on Kyoto about the Pacific trash vortex, the giant in the Pacific that's made out of junk, all the plastic and bits of scrap that have fallen off boats in the Pacific over the years.
Yeah.
I just thought that we couldn't if that happened in space.
Yeah, I mean, it's very visual. And of course, we did eventually get something like it in Matt's second season when we got to the junk TARDIS and the likes. That must have been a bit of a surprise when you eventually saw that and thought, hang on, that's a little bit familiar.
Yeah. You often find that it's kind of great minds think alike thing, I think.
Yeah. So once you've got that, I suppose it's a case of you've got your settings, so build it out from there and populating your world. How did you go about that? What was your thoughts? Because obviously it's Night of the Humans, and we find that the human race aren't necessarily always the good ones in space.
No, that's it. I just started doing sympathetic aliens. I was really interested in the fact that in the Arabic world, this golden age of astronomy, I thought nice if you had aliens that were named after something Arabic. The system of the Botany system named after an Arabic astronomer. I thought it would be nice if they'd been discovered by, Muslim scientists and astronomers. And
it makes it a bit different from the usual. Rather than ever being called, for example, John or Stephen or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It would be nice if it was a non-Western tradition that I've been familiar with.
Yeah, I think that really made a difference. Just having that, because it did make it feel otherworldly, but also something we can relate to as well. I suppose that's the core of it, when you've got a human story as the thing that Russell always liked to go for, the human story at the core of it, the thing that we can all relate to. I suppose that's the thing as the writer, you like to try and pull that out. Yeah. So, of course, you go on and create some very interesting characters, including Slipstream, who I pictured very much in a Roger Moore in a safari suit, in Octopussy kind of feel. That's what I was...
I'm sure he's made Rick Mail's flash art as well. He's made him flash art and Rick Mail.
Yeah.
A bit of Terry Thomas in there as well.
I suppose that's the thing, when you've got all these voices and established characters that you can sort of pull them together.
I was talking to my mate Tim. I said, "What if Dan Day was a dick? What if Dan Day was an absolutely awful person?" Yeah.
And he definitely comes across as being a bit of a wrong.
And the kind of name is a nod to Dirk Benedict, I think.
I did wonder if it was a nod to that film with Mark Hamill.
A bit of to both, I think.
Excellent stuff. Now we've got, of course, building all the different relationships between Amy and her group, and when the Doctor and companion get split up, that must be it's the thing that always sort of makes the story move so well, when you've got these different dynamics going on and then coming back together when you've got your two plots ongoing. So, how did you find writing for this new Doctor and companion compared to, obviously, with having done Tennant before?
It was kind of difficult. It's a bit sight unseen at that point, although you did see the episode.
Yeah.
It's just difficult quite getting that correct at first, I think.
I mean, how did you differentiate between them, in terms of getting the dialogue? Because they're quite similar in a lot of ways, but very different in others. Was that a challenge?
It was a bit, yeah.
Yeah, just sort of to get that. I suppose it's once you've heard the voice, it's getting it consistently there, because I know that...
I think luckily we did later get to meet them as well at an event at Cineworld in Cardiff, when he showed an episode there.
Oh, that definitely would be that'd be a good, again, a night to remember.
The BAFTA screening, we all went to the hotel down in the bay afterwards, so we got to meet Matt and Karen.
I suppose that's the thing that really helps inform the writing when you...
I did a tour in a taxi with them, Mark Gatiss, to get the after party.
Any stories you can relate from that?
No, not that I remember, anyway. This is going back a bit.
Yeah, lovely. So we've got Amy getting on really well with Charlie, and he's a very likeable character, and the fact that there's that family conflict there. The fact that his dad obviously wants things to be done in a particular way, and he's not willing to sort of go along with that traditional means. I think that's quite interesting, sort of like the generational gap thing that you're playing with there.
Yeah.
Is that quite sort of something that you find easy to do as a writer, sort of to create the conflict? What's at the heart of a good conflict for you?
Family dynamics are always interesting, I think. I'm the product of two quite big families, so...
Yeah, that makes it...
With lots of cousins and stuff.
Yeah, when you've got that sort of person thing you can relate to. I've only got 3 cousins, so there's not too many family conflicts there. But so we've got the whole character of Dirk Slipstream, who of course has met the Doctor previously. Did you have any idea which incarnation it would have been when you were writing?
I think when I was talking about the Maximus and Max Angry, we said Pertwee. We thought Pertwee.
Yeah.
Just seemed right to be Pertwee.
Yeah. Would he be one of your favourites of the classics?
Yeah.
There we go.
I've got the Blu-ray for Spearhead from Space. That's probably the closest to a film they did with Pertwee.
Ah.
I think it's closest to a film.
Of course, throughout this story, you've got some very cheeky references in there. There's the likes of, I just check my notes here, Volag Knock from The Infinite Quest. There's a reference to Voga.
Proammonium as well. Is Proammonium? Dragonfire?
Yep, Proammon, yep, from...
Dragonfire?
Yep, and there's also a reference also to the taking of Chelsea 426 with the shipwrecked Herald of Nanking, which had features... I suppose it's quite nice to be able to reference your own work like that in a subtle way.
Yeah.
And of course, there's other sort of references to the TV show with the monster in Amy's wall and Amy running around in her nightie and things like that. So I think that there's a lot of fun in this one. I think that's something that the book really goes with. Yeah, I mean, were you pitching this in your mind to yourself at a particular age, or is it just going right a damn good story?
Damn good story, mainly.
Yeah, because I was having a look on, I got Goodreads. This was I think DWM said this was the best of the first 3 novels that came out, and again it's got a rating I think of about 3.8 on Goodreads. So fans are still enjoying it now.
I've taken chapter by chapter. I've taken my friend's place and reading it aloud to him.
Ah, so that's it's part of your working process, so that you get the second opinion.
Helps also reading your work aloud sometimes to get the dialogue, especially. I
suppose that's the thing. It's something that can sound good in the head when it's actually read. It can work out a bit differently. So, because you have mentioned that in the thanks to Lord Tinlegs, who listened to the story in installments.
Yeah, that's him.
And also mentions that you discussed ideas with Joe Lidster, Scott Hancock, and Ollie Smith. Do you find that that's quite useful when you're working on something like this? It gives you sort of like your production team of your own.
It's a bit, yeah. Feels a bit more collaborative than writing.
Yeah, because I suppose that's the thing. It can be quite a lonely process. What do you call about the writing process for this one? Was it done at a particular time, place, and did you
Usually after work, I was still working in an office at the time.
So fitting it in around the day job as well.
I was in until 2012. Funnily enough, the office, they shot several episodes of Doctor Who there. Also, the opening Sarah Jane Adventures. It was shot in St. William's House in Cardiff, Lloyd's offices.
Ah.
These are Lazarus experiments. I said it's funny, there's always some evil person's HQ in my office where I hated working. There's always some bad guy's HQ in Doctor Who spin-offs.
Yeah, and it's not H.C. Clements.
He did briefly for Torchwood, but only outside of it, I think.
I suppose that's the thing with with this one being set off world, at least you're able to sort of get ideas and sort of let the imagination run free. I mean, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the more sort of down-to-earth setting, or do you prefer being able to get out there and let the imagination run free, as you did with Chelsea?
I was fond on both those, writing stuff set in space. As a kid who grew up with Star Wars and Doctor Who, yeah.
Yeah, it gives you that freedom and just getting out there and doing your own thing. Mm. So what did you think of the cover when you first saw it?
I loved it. I gave Lee binding the proof. I said, can we do like a 50s style spaceship? 50s/60s.
Yep.
I was thinking like Forbidden Planet, I think.
Yep, you can almost see like the rivets. Yeah. It's got that lovely chrome look and the red nose cone to give it sort of Thunderbird look as well.
Also got the book. I'll show you now. This is a book I wrote.
Oh yes. Spacecraft 2000 to 2100 by Stuart Cowley.
Yep. I think there's a reference to that and taken to Chelsea 426. Mm-hmm. It's his manual for spaceships. It's based on that.
Ah. I think that's the sort of thing that people like, when there's like your little subtle nods that you can feed into it and get it going.
There's certainly a lot of the spaceships in that book.
Yes.
Still do.
Smaller ones as well, just like the miniature craft and all the perils of getting across the planet and things collapsing underfoot, which it definitely gives it that momentum. Do you find it, in terms of pacing a book, how do you go about that in your mind? What's the... So do you have it sort of mapped out that you're going to have like your dramatic start, let it slow down a bit, build up, and then from then on just keep it building towards the climax?
I was told at the end of each chapter is the end of an episode, just to kind of crash into the theme tune at the end of every chapter.
Take him away, he hissed. To Django will decide his fate. Jumbo-da-dum. Yeah, okay, that works. Yeah. And let's find another one. The only trouble...
I'll do Matt Smith, and then you get the fanfare as well.
Oh, yeah. The only trouble is, said Charlie, we have to find a way in. But I think I have an idea. Dum, bum, bum, bum. Yeah, okay, yep, we've got it. That's working.
Yeah. Cool.
And how did you find working with Justin Richards?
Great, yeah, I really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah, he's...
Even though it's often remotely.
Yeah.
I've met him a couple of times.
Yeah, he's a good editor. Everyone says how much they enjoy working with him, which is always good. And then, of course, you get an audiobook read by Arthur Darvill. That must have been pleasing when you found out you've got one of the series regulars. Have you been able to give it a listen?
I haven't, actually. I met Arthur. He's one of the ones that came to that party.
Right.
With Kate and Matt.
Oh, he's a lovely fella. Very, very nice. Very, very down to earth and good fun. How would you sum it up, in terms of, of all the things you've written, where does this one come in?
I think it does fits in quite well with the kind of slightly darker, with a bit of comedy.
So all in all, would you say that Night of the Humans was quite a happy experience?
Yep.
Excellent. And any other memories spring to mind?
Only the party we went to.
Yeah, not at all jealous about that one, but...
Screening party.
Mm-hmm. That would be good. Just those little moments. I hope you got some pictures. Or I suppose this would be sort of around mobile selfies. Not quite there yet.
No, not quite there yet.
Damn it. Oh, well. But David, thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Okay.
Thank you so much for that, David. And if you want to hear more of David's work, he's actually got an adventure coming out in the next Space Security Service release from Big Finish, which I think is out in June. So keep an eye out for that one. So from talking about his future work, let's go back to his past work and hear another extract from Night of the Humans, the official audiobook, read by Arthur Darvill.
Okay, what is that? Asked Amy, shouting over the shrill bleeping noise that screamed out of the console. It's a signal, the Doctor replied, never once taking his eyes away from the screen before him. A beacon, an alarm, no, it's stranger than that. All at once the TARDIS shook violently, nearly knocking them both off their feet. And what was that? Said Amy, bracing herself and struggling to keep balance. Well, I'm not sure what that was, said the Doctor. I think we may have hit some sort of gravitational speed bump. A gravitational speed bump? They have speed bumps in space. How fast were we going? In the centre of the console, the glowing crystalline columns groaned and wheezed, as if wrestling some unimaginable force. The lights began to dim, the interior of the ship descending into gloom. Well, not a speed bump, as such, said the Doctor, completely unfazed by the dimming of the lights and the monstrous cacophony being made by the TARDIS. More an abnormality. Smaller than a black hole, much smaller than a black hole, but this is where the signal's coming from. There was a sudden terrific clanging sound, like that of a monstrous hammer slamming down onto an impossibly large anvil, and the TARDIS stopped moving. OK, I think we've landed. With a knowing grin, the Doctor looked up at Amy for the first time in an age. Though the engines of the TARDIS had stopped wheezing and the outside world was quiet, the inside was still filled with that high-pitched bleeping. "So, is it like a distress signal?" said Amy. The Doctor nodded. "That's exactly what it's like," he told her. "The strange thing is, it's a trans-temporal distress signal." English, please? "It's a distress signal that crosses time. Very sophisticated in its own way. A spaceship leaves planet A and travels to planet B, 6 light months away. When it gets to planet B, something malfunctions. Basically, the distress signal travels back in time and reaches planet A shortly after the spaceship has left, so a rescue party can be organised right away." "But if the signal travels back in time, can't they just send a message to themselves to stop them going to planet B in the first place?" "Oh, Amy Pond, so much to learn. Paradoxes, space-time, closed time-like loops." "OK, so where are we?" The Doctor beckoned Amy over to his side of the console and pointed at one of the monitors. Peering at the screen, Amy saw the image of a solar system with 12 planets spreading out from its central star. On the outer edges of the system was a flashing green dot. The Doctor drew a circle around the screen with his fingertip. "This is the Batani 045 system. That planet there is Jahi Minor. That planet there, well, I can't even pronounce the name of that planet. That there is the comet Shulla Khan, and that..." He pointed at the flashing dot. "That's us. Thing is, we've landed on something big and solid, and there's nothing big or solid this far out." He looked across the console room at the door. "You want to go out there," said Amy. It was a statement, not a question. The Doctor returned his attention to her and smiled. It was a strange, inscrutable smile that took a second or two to reach his eyes. "Well," he said, as he left the console and made his way towards the door with his back to her, "there is a distress signal. I'd be breaching all kinds of intergalactic conduct if I didn't at least try and find out where it came from. Plus, big mysterious object which shouldn't be here. Well, it'd be lazy not to investigate further, wouldn't it? I mean, wouldn't it?" He had opened the door before Amy could reply, and behind his back she rolled her eyes. She had grown accustomed to the Doctor's ways. If there was a mystery on the other side of that door, he was bound to open it. The Doctor turned around and gestured towards the outside world with both arms, like a magician unveiling his latest trick. "Come along," he said, beaming. "Onwards and upwards." Amy ran across the console room, and together they made their first tentative steps outside. The sight that greeted them took Amy's breath away, and the only thing she could do was laugh, more out of disbelief than anything else. She wasn't quite sure what she had expected. A rocky landscape, perhaps, dotted with craters and mountainous ridges, or a desert. Something a little bit more like the moon. This was nothing like that. The ground beneath their feet was metal, but neither smooth nor polished. Rather, it was composed entirely of flattened scraps of junk, some no bigger than a tin can, others the size of a bus. Stretching out into the distance, this landscape of metal became jagged in places, rising up in crooked hills and spiny razor-sharp ridges. There were plants here and there, but they were nothing like the plants back home. If it reminded her of anything, the place resembled nothing so much as an endless scrapyard, reaching off as far as the eye could see. Worst of all was the smell. Amy was reminded of bin day in Ledworth, when the council would come around to collect rubbish, and sometimes, if you were walking behind one of the trucks, you'd find yourself downwind of the most terrible stench. Whatever this world was, it smelled as if it was rotting. "That's menging," she moaned, pinching her nostrils shut. "Oh, I don't know," said the doctor. "I've smelled worse. You should try 16th century London. Place was an open sewer. Come along, Pond." The doctor walked out into the metallic valley in which the TARDIS had landed, and, shaking her head in resignation, Amy followed. "Why do you call me Pond?" she asked, after navigating her way around a particularly tricky mound of crushed steel and twisted plastic. "Why? Don't you like it?" "Well, it's just Pond," said Amy. "What's wrong with Amy?" "What's wrong with Amelia?" "Lots of things. And as for just calling me Pond, it makes me sound..." "Nothing wrong with Pond. I'm quite fond of ponds. Ponds have ducks. Well, some of them do. And ducks are great."
So let's turn to the pages of DWM to find out what they thought about it. And this appeared in issue 426 when it was reviewed alongside Apollo 23 and the Forgotten Army, and the same page also had Nuclear Time, The King's Dragon and The Glamour Chase, so they did all of the books in one go, the first 6, which is a bit naughty really. I like an individual review. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. Call me old-fashioned, I don't care. Anyway, let's see what they had to say, and this was written by Dan Berry. I'm taking out extracts from this since they're the relevant bits, since a lot of them touch on the other novels, like Apollo 23. Anyway, he says, there are some new Doctor Who novels out, and they are the first to feature the 11th Doctor and Amy Pond. The lead character's friendship transfers to the page reasonably well, in all 3, but David Llewelyn's Night of the Humans gives us the most faithful portrayal of both characters. The measure for these things tends to be whether or not you can imagine the actors saying the dialogue. Llewelyn gets the rhythm so right, you'll struggle to hear anything else. Then, after discussing Apollo 23 at length, there's a little line here which picks up for what we want to hear. But Night of the Humans is probably the highlight of this set. It's a slightly more mysterious tale than the other 2, neatly twisting that Star Trek-ish staple of savages whose culture is based on misinterpreted fiction, but making those savages human. It's a clever, refreshing premise, and Llewelyn adroitly exploits its potential, painting a vivid environment populated by big, engaging characters, the highlight being the swashbuckling Dirk Slipstream. He'd like to be irritatingly brilliant, but actually, he's just brilliantly irritating. And he probably deserves his own series. The campaign starts here. And that pretty much was all DWM had to say about it. Thankfully though, to get some opinions, there are of course the fan opinions, and they're available from Goodreads. It's got a rating there of 3.69 out of 5 from 1,593 ratings and 131 reviews. 5 stars, 24%, 4 stars, 32%, 3 stars, 33%, 2 stars, 7%, and 1 star, 1%. Let's start with a 5-star review from Dale Russell. Dale says, David Llewelyn is an author of 4 books in the Whoniverse, with this being his 3rd journey through time and space. As with most of these books, the writer has 2 main goals to accomplish. 1, write a story that feels like it is Who-ish, one that readers could imagine being part of the ongoing TV series. And 2, present the Doctor and companion, Z, in a way that captures the feel and eccentricities of the actors and their portrayals on the TV screen. In the first, Llewelyn crafts a story that I can see being brought into my home on a weekend viewing night. A mixture of the original series type characters and creatures hits it on the nose, with strange monsters and looming disasters coupled with the bigger feel and span of the current modern series. Definitely 10 out of 10 on that front. For the second, he hits the portrayal of Amy 5 by 5 with her attitude and personality. The Doctor, in this case the Matt Smith version, is a little more vague, especially at the beginning, but by the last third of the story, Llewelyn has Smith's quirks and eccentricities pretty much down. A nicely done story, and a good addition to the BBC Books line of Doctor Who novels. That was meant to sound a little Welsh, but it probably didn't, but I apologise to everyone Welsh. And everyone pretty much listening, sorry. 4 stars from Kyle Theobald. He says, "The main gimmick in this book, as indicated by the title, is the role reversal of the humans being the villains, having devolved over thousands of years into a primitive murderous tribe, while it's aliens we follow and identify with as the main protagonists. I like that while the humans encountered in the story may be quite far removed from human society as we know it, aspects of their behaviour are very relatable, and do serve as a commentary on human nature, in particular their sheer stubbornness and willful ignorance. The absurdity of the fact they've formed a whole religion around fanatically worshipping a cartoon clown, I believe is very deliberate. It's just a pity that Llewelyn feels the need to somewhat heavy-handedly spell this point out for the reader towards the end. Also, the way the Doctor reacts to the humans and his frustration and desperation to get through to them and save them from their impending doom, especially in one particular scene involving a projector, is so utterly doctorly and in character. It's difficult to sympathise with the human characters due to their stupidity and refusal to listen when told that a comet is about to crash into the world. But of course, the Doctor just sees people who need saving. Reading it again now, it reminds me a lot of Ncuti Gatwa's scene from Dot and Bubble in the latest series, and his despair at not being able to save a bunch of vapid, clueless white supremacists from themselves. There's a 3-star review from Rachel. Rachel says, "The storyline is rather creative, but I feel like there were several moments that were out of character from the TV series. Granted, this was one of the earlier books from the 11th Doctor's run, so that may be part of the problem. Like the scene with Amy asking the Doctor if he was jealous of her new friend. I could not see that ever being a scene between Amy and the Doctor. It felt more like a conversation between the 10th Doctor and Rose. Also, the Doctor made a couple of very poor decisions near the end of the book. Why on earth, if you're the only one with the knowledge to do something, would you cave in when the man who wants you to share your knowledge threatens you? I mean, why would the man kill you if you're the only man in the universe who can solve his problem? It's an empty threat. Slipstream was an enjoyable villain, even if he was a bit see-through. I wish he had been a bit more mysterious, and I wish it had taken a while longer to discover that he was a villain. But his posh attitude was quite funny. So, this may not be the best of the Doctor Who novels, but it was definitely enjoyable and unique." There's a 2-star review from Ian Wilson, who said, "Enjoyable for the most part. Could have been about 49 pages shorter to my taste, and certainly struggled towards the later part of the book. I'm guessing this book was written while the first few episodes of Matt Smith was in production, as none of the character of the Doctor or Amy are transposed in this story. That being said, interesting premise, and the other characters are colourful enough to make it readable." And then there's also a 1-star review from Corey Dutson. Corey says, "Ne'er have I cared so little about every character in a Who novel before. Nothing grabbed me about Night of the Humans. I truly didn't care about who lived and who got eaten by slugs. The writing itself was fine, and all the mechanics were there, but for me, it didn't actually get me into the story at all. Amy is amazingly un-Amy-ish, the antagonists were cookie-cutter, and the support team were boring. Any attempt to give them depth was negated by the fact that most of them died 3 pages later. Even Slipstream, or is it Starshine, was utterly two-dimensional. All he was missing was a cape and twistable moustache. The only saving grace to this book is that it is the first one with the 11th Doctor that actually got him right. The dialogue and interaction the Doctor had in this book was absolutely perfect. It's a shame the rest of the book fell so flat around him. Excellent potential, but a disappointment for me. However, there was a review for the audiobook, and it got 5 stars from Amanda, in brackets, novel addiction. She said, "This was absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best Doctor Who books I have ever read, listened to, and definitely in my list of top science fiction, in general, books I have read. A great story, but equally great characters besides those that normally appear in the show. Since I listened to the audiobook, I can't help but mention how well done that was. Arthur Darvill is a wonderful narrator, and I am desperately seeking anything else read by him. He does superb voices, and he's incredibly engaging. If he could read every other Doctor Who book I listen to, I'd be happy. If he could narrate my life for me, I'd be overjoyed. someone try and make this happen. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, be sure to check out Night of the Humans by David Llewelyn. Well, there we go. That's a pleasant review to end on, isn't it? We like that one. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, feel free to visit our Facebook page and leave a comment. If you have an opinion of this book, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Power of 3Pod with a number 3, and on Blue Sky we're at Finished Zine. Now, time is running out, and we're now going to listen to a piece of music because it's one of my favourite ones, and you'll probably know it as the Clothes Show theme. It's called In the Night, and it's by Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe, but you know them better as, well, you know yourself. We'll see you soon. I'm Kenny Smith. Bye.